From Season 5's unnecessary face-off between Beth and Summer, to when Beth was brutally attacked by Malcolm Beck's men in Season 2, here are the moments from Yellowstone that made fans genuinely angry. I'll kick things off with the episode Watch 'Em Right Away, and then the absolutely unnecessary face-off between Beth and Summer. Now, Season 5 has its ups and downs. We can agree that it's been a bit slow so far, and has a lot more filler content than we were expecting. But hey, at least it had some tense family drama, right? Well, Episode 5 was a bit, how do I put it, lackluster. While the season's doing some great numbers in terms of viewers, the ratings have begun to suffer, and a prime example of why is Watch 'Em Right Away. Let's start with the crux of the issue, Beth Dutton. Fans flocked to social media and announced their frustration that the show focuses on Beth a little too much. She keeps getting into needless fights with other characters, and while I agree that that's her style, it just seems very forced now. You see, Beth started off as a savvy businesswoman who used psychological tactics to overwhelm her enemies. But she was also an emotionally wounded woman who was fiercely loyal to John and Rip. In other words, Beth used to have depth. But now after Seasons 4 and 5, that depth is gone and it's pissing the fans off. I'll get to Season 4 in a bit, but let's dive into the problem with Episode 5. Now, before the Duttons head out to brand their cattle, they have a nice family dinner, which immediately becomes uncomfortable and tense. I know that's the usual for the family, but context matters. You see, John warns Beth to not say anything if she can't say anything nice, and then she goes ahead and calls Summer a hooker. If that wasn't cringe enough, the two women then head outside to have a good old-fashioned brawl. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not on Summer's side here either, and neither are the majority of the fans. The problem with her character is that she's too dumbed down now. She started off as an intelligent, radical activist with a fringe point of view, and according to Reddit user Right416, quickly became a moron. That sounds harsh, but it's fair, considering she started out as a character who could challenge the opinions and views of the others. But instead, she became a caricature of the same beliefs she once held. Why am I talking about this, you ask? Well, it's these character moments spread throughout Seasons 4 and 5 that angered the fans, and Episode 5 proved that it was drama for drama's sake, and no one asked for it. Fans noted that the other characters were behaving uncharacteristically too. One fan pointed at the scene where Monica started crying, as if she was never gonna see her husband and son again, when in fact, that wasn't the case, and it seemed totally out of character for her to do so. And the other thing that's testing the fans' patience is the fact that not a lot seems to be happening in Season 5, and Episode 5 was a prime example. Yes, there are disputes and conflicts between the Duttons, especially any scene that involves Beth, but the narrative itself seems to be grinding to a halt. Characters aren't developing like they should, and virtually nothing of substance has happened yet. And we're already halfway through the season, with the rest of the episodes releasing in the summer. And I hope Taylor Sheridan has something wild in store for the fans in the final half. Now, another scene that echoes Season 5's problems occurs in the Season 4 episode, I Want to Be Him. And again, the issue at hand here is Beth Dutton. Like I said, Beth was a powerhouse in the first 3 seasons, and fans genuinely loved her badassery in the face of danger and her loyalty to the ranch. But in Season 4, things started to take a turn for the worse in one of the more nonsensical character moments in Episode 6. There were plenty of things to dislike about Beth in Season 4, but I Want to Be Him seems like the perfect episode to highlight those issues. Series newcomer Piper Parabo's Summer Higgins was introduced as John Dutton's love interest, and Beth immediately pulled a knife on her. Now, here's the problem with that. Previously, Beth insisted that her dad needed to hook up with someone and find a little romance in his life. And when he does what she asks, she pulls a kitchen knife on the woman he does it with. It was a baffling character moment, and most fans hated Beth for doing that. When discussing the episode on Reddit, one fan asked the obvious question: wasn't it she who gave John the idea to sleep with someone? Another fan responded by saying that the writers intended for the scene to highlight Beth's instability and highly emotional reactions, but instead, the scene ended up feeling cringeworthy. A different user echoed that statement and added that Beth's reaction was gross and that she was acting jealous in a really weird way. It's almost as if she wants John all to herself. Gross. But on the other hand, fans agreed that the episode highlighted a major issue with Beth's character arc. She went from being a strong, emotionally damaged character to a caricature of her former self. Season 5 suffers from the same issues, but Season 4 is where the cracks begin to show. And so far, you will notice that most of the show's issues stem from the awkward dynamic between Beth and Summer. Sure, Summer's character got worse as the seasons went along, but in Season 4, Episode 6, the fans were on her side. Anyway, let's skip to Season 4, Episode 9, titled No Such Thing as Fair, which viewers agreed was the worst episode of the season. Why? Well, according to one IMDb review, the episode was, in one word, tedious. There was no drama, Beth's arc had reached its worst point, and Jimmy was being a sad sack. One of the main issues fans had with the episode was the incredibly slow pace. There were some tense moments between Beth, John, and Rip, but they were drawn out unnecessarily. And on the flip side, the episode focused too much on Jimmy's move to the 4-6's ranch, which fans believed was an obvious setup for Sheridan's new spin-off 4-6's. The episode moved away from the main players and instead emphasized Jimmy's journey. That was one of the major complaints throughout Season 4, actually. Instead of focusing on the main characters, the season spent the majority of its time setting up Sheridan's other spin-offs, namely 4-6's and 1883. Now, that wasn't the only issue present in Season 4. Remember the scene where Monica was still bathing her son Tate, even though he was like 12 years old at the time? Yeah, fans didn't like that at all. In fact, it was one of the more disturbing scenes in the show. Because during that scene, Tate tells her mother to look away while he gets out of the bathtub and remarks that it is stiff as a board. I don't need to explain any further, do I? One Reddit user saw that scene and noted, if there was one scene the show didn't need, it was that one. Many users agreed with them, saying that Monica was one character they'd rather see written off the show, and that she adds nothing to the show's quality. It's quite harsh, but I guess that's fair. Now, I know I've been picking on Seasons 4 and 5, but there's a brutal moment from Season 2 that forced some fans to mute the audio, and it came in the episode Resurrection Day. It followed the aftermath of Jamie killing the journalist who was threatening to reveal a huge family secret that could bring the Duttons down. This is where Beth's character shined, in my opinion, because she was the first person to disapprove of Jamie's actions. Sure, she was brutal with her words, but fans understood where she was coming from. Her loyalty to the Dutton family went far beyond her own brother. Anyway, the episode introduced a major twist when she returns to her office and gets a surprise visit from Malcolm Beck's men. They don't just hold her and her assistant hostage, they beat the living daylights out of them. She never lets the attackers see the fear in her eyes, but then they kill her assistant in front of her eyes. And this is the moment that was too much for the fans to stomach, because they continue to beat her viciously. Now, I know Rip arrived in time to kill the men and save her life, but the damage was done. One Redditor, Harry Callanan19, said that they turned off the sound and only half-watched the episode. And another user echoed their statement, suggesting that even filming something like that must have been tough for actress Kelly Riley. A few fans agreed that this was where the show reached Game of Thrones in terms of brutality and violence. It didn't shy away from it and went a little too far to show the suffering Beth had to bear. And a lot of fans hated the episode for it. So, from Malcolm's brutal attack on Beth in her office in Season 2 to Season 5's needless face-off between Summer and Beth, those were the moments from Yellowstone that fans absolutely hated.